So in today's Enlisted video, we're going to talk about more of Enlisted's history whenever it came to the development or the early development of the game. In the last video, which will be a card in the top right of this video right now, we talked about the Q&A from the 2016 to 2017. In this video, we'll be talking about the community polls, the rare stuff that you could have got whenever you backed the game back then, and some possible campaigns that may come in the future. The first thing I want to talk about is the backer guns. The backer guns were able to be bought in bundles, or you could buy them individually. Some of the bundles did give early access to the game, and also some interesting stuff within War Thunder. The first bundle was a Infantry Mosin 1891. These rifles are already in game right now, but the only way you could have got them was become a backer back in 2016. I've personally not seen anyone run around with these guns yet, and I personally don't even have these guns because back then I was only the age of 16, and I really didn't have money to just spend on video games back then. But and especially for a video game that I never knew was going to come out. So yeah, I wish I would have got them. If I was smart and knew now what I would be doing with Enlisted, I would have got them. But for now, I don't have them. The second weapon that you could have bought as a backer was the Mauser 98K Carbine with the trench magazine. This looks like a really good rifle considering most bolt action rifles within the game don't have this big of a magazine. And the last one you could have bought was a single weapon of the Springfield M1903 Air Service. Again, this thing has an extended mag for a bolt action rifle. So this one has to be really good. I do believe back then they were planning to just sell these as individual rifles, but now I do believe, and I'll check within the files whenever I edit this video and we'll put up some pictures. These turned into actual premium squads, if I remember correctly from seeing in the files. Now for the bundles. With these bundles, you got access to most of the enlisted campaigns. Some of them only let you get access to Normandy, some only Moscow. And with these, you had to, buy. And some of these bundles had limited numbers that they could sell. So I believe like 500 was for Normandy and 500 was for Moscow. But if you wanted to get everything, there was not a limit on it, and you could just buy it for $50. And you got some stuff within War Thunder, as well as all the special guns, and you got all the campaigns. So after all this, we're going to be talking about the backer goals for Enlisted. The first goal was the invasion of Normandy, which we already have. The next goal was Moscow, which we already have. Tunisia campaign, which we know is coming in some future date. After Tunisia is the interesting one. This was the next campaign chosen by the players. The community also got to vote on a game module, and all this will be answered in the following parts of the video. But basically, this is like, do you want vehicles? Do you want, customization, all that kind of stuff. And then the last one was a release on console, which we already have, which is really cool. So now we're going to get on to the campaign polls themselves. The campaign polls were pretty interesting because it let the community vote for what they kind of wanted the game to become in the future. The first question was, and I don't have a picture of it because it's not a very important question. It's just like, why did you not back the game yet? And it's like, don't find the game interesting, all that kind of stuff. The second poll is the most interesting one because it includes campaigns. So here's the question. What campaign would you like to see in Enlisted? The options were the Battle of Iwo Jima, Battle of Stalingrad, Battle of Berlin, which we already have, the Battle of Guadalcanal, landing in Sicily, and the Battle of Crete, which I think is a really weird one, but I think it was one of those, they just wanted to throw an oddball in there to see if people would vote for it just because it's an oddball. But I'd love to see this campaign. I think it'd be an interesting one to play. And so, yeah, what these campaigns mean, and none of these questions, or some of them were, not this question in particular, was a writing question. So all these campaigns you just heard right now are campaigns that Darkflow are willing to make because they picked them. And if they're not willing to make them, why would they pick them? So in the future of Enlisted, we might see the Battle of Stalingrad, which has already been hinted at and will be hinted at later in this video. Battle of Berlin is already here. The Battle of Guadalcanal, landing in Sicily. All these things can be put into the game very quickly because Darkflow is ready to make these anyway. Which one ever got picked, that they would go full development in it, and I assume a lot of these will come in the future. So after that poll, it was the question of what game opportunity would you like to see Enlisted? Character customization, weapon barter and trade between players, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think that would be just put onto the guide to market now, but it'd be pretty cool to be able to trade. If you have a weapon your friend wants and he has a weapon you want, you're able to trade it and pretty much like play together, have a community aspect to it. User missions, controllable vehicles, which sadly won, and I'll talk about that later in the video. So the last poll was, do you want to make this game a free-to-play? We've talked about this poll a bunch in recent videos, so I'm not really going to go into it, but the basic answer was yes, let's make it to a free-to-play. So now we're going to talk about some of the answers to these polls in 2017. Or actually 2016, whenever these polls came out. So in 2017, a devblog came out talking about these new goals that they're going to add to the game and the results. I will be summing this article up, but it will be on screen for you to read. So the first thing that they said was a paid game would deter players from playing the game, which is very true. I mean, there may be a lot of World War II FPS games right now. On top of my head, there's only really 2 that are free to play, being Enlisted and Heroes in general. And in my opinion, I think this is my opinion only, but I think if Enlisted was a paid game, I believe right now everybody would be not playing Enlisted. I believe they would have canceled the project. It's because from Steam charts that we can see of like Hell Let Loose, of Postscriptum, of those type of games that are paid to get into, which are more like realistic in sense, they don't have a player base. They maybe have like up to 1,000 people on, up to 2,000 people. And the scope of Enlisted having multiple campaigns, there's no way that Enlisted could, have people in there and in the games themselves with that amount of players. So you have to make it free to play, have to make it where people can come in. And right now, because Enlisted is very new whenever it comes to the game itself, it just came to CBT. It's not even a year old. You're going to have, bots. And that's mainly why there's bots in the game, so people have quick queue times. And people are able to actually play the game. But hopefully in later years Enlisted starts to get more of a player base, and we see the game start to shine as War Thunder has. The next thing is, since the game was going to go free to play, they had to change their approach to development, which is why it took them so long to get the game to OBT. I mean, the game was being talked about in 2016. It's 2021 now, and we finally just got into OBT. So it's pretty interesting about how much development time it takes to make a free-to-play game, especially with the amount of people Darkflow had at the time, which was 14. And the reason I know this is from a Reddit Q&A that happened a while back ago, and I may go over that just to talk about how much Darkflow has for resources and all that kind of stuff, because it's pretty interesting to know. And the last thing I want to talk about is the poll winners. So the poll winner for the campaign was the Battle of Stalingrad. That's actually a pretty funny one. I would have expected something else to win, but I also understand that during this time there was a very biased group of people who were voting on these polls, and the next thing that won was the controllable vehicles. Now, I want to say something because I think this is incredibly funny. So, anyone that says, I hate planes or I hate tanks, blame the community now because they voted for it. The reason that the A-20 keeps bombing you on Normandy over and over and over is because of the community. So, the community is wrong, and that's what I'm going to blame every time I get bombed for now. So, I also want to say during this time, when the polls were being voted on, the only people who really knew about this game was people who found it from YouTube, of other content creators talking about the game, new World War II FPS coming out. And you also had people who were already in the Gaijin ecosystem, which mainly being War Thunder. So vehicles winning was most likely a biased result from a lot of people who played War Thunder, who's seen Enlisted, and for the longest time, a lot of people in War Thunder wanted infantry in War Thunder. So, if they can vote for vehicles to get into Enlisted, that's kind of their, dream game. Even today, you have people who want, Enlisted to just die, which is kind of weird. And you want them to just put Enlisted inside of War Thunder. I've already seen this a lot from the War Thunder community, of where they don't want to play Enlisted because it's, another free-to-play game, which I agree with. But you have some crazies out there that just want the game to die, and they want everything that was put into Enlisted to just be put into War Thunder. I hope a lot of people learned a lot of stuff from this video. This is probably, some of my favorite videos to make, because even I've learned stuff about Enlisted, and this video is more of like a catalog to keep this information forever. I hope a lot of people take this information and are able to see what kind of stuff they need to suggest on the forums, see what kind of videos they need to make if you're a fellow content creator. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.